Hey, what's up guys? Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. Here in today's video, I wanted to do a follow-up of the video that I did last week, which was called Improvise Like a Pro in 8 Weeks. So if you haven't already seen that video, check that out. I'll post a link to that below. I'll also put a link here in the video if you're watching this video from YouTube. By far, the most important detail of that entire 8-week course was week 1. Week 1's objective was by far the most important thing. And I'd be willing to bet that a lot of people probably just skipped that part or overlooked it. And they were like, oh, week 1, yeah, whatever. Let me get on and watch week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Week 1 is the most important thing about that entire video, by far. So what was week 1's objective? Well, there was 2 objectives in week 1. The first objective was just pentatonic noodling. That was not the big deal part. The big deal part was to pay attention to the chord's function within the key. That's the thing. That's the thing that's going to change the way that you approach soloing from this point forward if you're not already doing it. So the specific chord progression that was used in that video from last week was an A minor chord to a G major chord to a D minor chord. So there's 2 ways that you could think about that. You could think, okay, that's an A minor chord, and then that's a G major chord, then that's a D minor chord. Those are just 3 random chords. Maybe you recognize the fact that they're all part of the same key. That's good, you know. But that's one way of thinking about that chord progression. The other way of thinking about that chord progression is by assigning numbers to the chords. So think about the function of each of those chords within the key. So instead of calling it A minor, G major, D minor, call it a 6-5-2 progression. So that's the thing right there. If you know how to solo over a 6-5-2 progression, you can then take that exact same stuff that you did in last week's video. You can then do it in another key, like you can play in the key of E minor or B minor or C sharp minor or D minor or whatever. You can play in any other key and you will know how to solo over a 6-5-2 progression. All right, it's a specific skill set. So let me just explain to you why this is so important. So let's say that we have determined that our key is the key of A minor, right? So that's the key that we were in last week's video. So pentatonic position number 1 for the key of A minor is located right here between frets 5 and 8. So this is your pentatonic position 1. So every time an A minor chord comes along and you want to target the chord tones of the A minor chord, those chord tones are all going to be part of the pentatonic scale. So you have an A, you have a C, you have an E, you have an A, C, E, A, C. So all of the chord tones are part of the pentatonic scale. So recognizing that the A minor chord is the 6th chord within this particular key signature that we're in, there's only 12 key signatures. The one of 12 key signatures that we're in, this A minor chord is the 6th chord of that key signature. You're going to know that every time a 6th chord comes up in whatever chord progression that you're soloing over, your chord tones are always going to be part of the pentatonic scale. So let's go and say that we're soloing in the key of E minor, for example. So if we're in the key of E minor, our pentatonic position number 1 is going to be located up here between frets 12 and 15. So the chord tones for the E minor chord, since it's the 6th chord within that key signature, here's an E, here's a G, here's a B. E, G, B, E, G. Same thing. Let's say you want to do the exact same thing, but you want to solo in the key of B minor. So in the key of B minor, our pentatonic position number 1 is going to be found right here between frets 7 and 10. The chord tones of the B minor chord, instead of calling it a B minor chord, call it the 6th chord. Think of it as the 6th chord. The chord tones are still going to be located in the exact same location. They're going to be part of the pentatonic scale. All right, so let's go back to the original starting key, which is A minor. That's the key from the lesson from last week. That was the key that we're in. The chord progression was A minor to G major to D minor. So instead of calling it that, it's a 6-5-2 progression. So now we're going to be focusing on what to do over the 5 chord. No more G major. It's now just the 5 chord. That's what you think of it as. So here's our pentatonic position number 1 for the key of A minor, located in between frets 5 and 8. So every time a 5 chord comes along, it doesn't matter what key you're in, but every time a 5 chord comes along, you know that there's going to be one chord tone that is located outside of the pentatonic scale. It's still going to be part of the key, but it's not going to be part of the pentatonic scale. It's going to be located in this direction, the direction towards the nut. You know, if you're a left-handed guitar player, it's going to be the other direction, but it's towards the nut direction of the guitar. So every time you have a 5 chord that comes along, here's going to be one of your chord tones. Right there, that's the note B. That's a chord tone of the G major chord. It's also up here. That note B is a chord tone of the G major chord. The G major chord is the 5 chord in this key. Anytime you are soloing over a chord progression and a 5 chord comes along, that same exact concept is always going to apply. You're going to have a chord tone that's located outside of the pentatonic position by 1 fret in the direction of the nut. So let's say we're in the key of E minor now, all right? So the chord progression is going to be E minor to D major to A minor. Same exact chord progression. It's still a 6-5-2 progression. Our pentatonic position number 1 for the key of E minor is located between frets 12 and 15. So, you know, when the E minor chord is playing, all of your chord tones are part of the pentatonic scale. When that D major chord comes along, that's the 5 chord in this key. Same exact thing. That 1 chord tone is always going to be located 1 fret outside of the pentatonic scale to that direction. So that note right there is the note F sharp. The chord tones of a D major chord are D, F sharp, and A. That is the note, that's the chord tone of the D major chord. Let's say we're in the key of B minor. All right, so B minor, in the key of B minor, your pentatonic position number 1 is located right here. The 5 chord in that key is an A major chord. The chord tones of an A major chord are A, C sharp, and E. Same thing. That note right there is the note C sharp. That's a chord tone of the 5 chord. Right there, that's a C sharp. That is a chord tone of the 5 chord. So the idea here is to simplify your thought process. If you go through the full 8 weeks of that course from last week, and you get really, really good at soloing over that one specific chord progression, A minor to G major to D minor, then you'll be really, really good at that progression. You'll be like, okay, I can solo over an A minor to a G major to a D minor chord progression. I practiced that for 8 weeks straight. I got that one down. Then say later on down the road, an E minor to a D major to an A minor chord progression comes along. You have 2 options. You could either be like, okay, well, that's also a 6-5-2 progression. I know how to do that. All I have to do is take the stuff that I've already practiced and just move it up to here, and all the same stuff is going to apply. Or you could think, this is an entirely new chord progression. Oh no, I need to practice this new chord progression. I need to spend all this time. And then you may think, well, there's a million possible chord combinations out there. Whoa, overwhelming, mind blown. How am I ever going to do this? I don't have enough years in my life. Or you could just be like, oh, well, there's only 7 chords in each key. If I know what to do over a 6 chord, then I always know what to do over a 6 chord in any key. If I know what to do over a 5 chord, I always know what to do over a 5 chord in any key. Same thing for the rest of the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 chords in the key. Learn what to do over each of those 7 chords. Learn it one time. Applies to all the rest of the keys. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you haven't already seen that video from last week, check that out. Like I said, I'll post a link to that below. Improvise like a pro in 8 weeks. If you want to check out some of my other stuff, check out zombieguitar.com. It's my labor of love for the past 7 years. If you want to check out my Patreon page, it's my new project I've been working on, adding 2 videos to that each week. I don't plan on stopping that anytime soon. By the end of 2022, I hope to have about 150 videos on my Patreon page. So I'm still building Zombie Guitar. I'm still building my Patreon page. I don't stop working. I just keep on making these videos. I don't know. I like it. I hope you guys like it too. I like to help people. I like to talk guitar. I like to talk music theory. And this is what I do for a living too. So yeah, I do. And I got some stuff for sale. If you want to check out that stuff, cool. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching my video. See you next time.